Okay. It's good production.
Well, I am Marjorie Cradoff Gothard.
Gothard?
Uh-huh.
My name is Johnson. I'm interviewing Margie Cat Craig
Gothard.
Gothard.
Yes.
August the 4th, 2007. Fostoria. I'm just going to ask you a question in a complete sentence. Say my name. Act like you're telling a story.
Oh.
Like a word or two, or you're just telling me a story. It's really easy. What is your full name, and please spell it?
Okay. Marjorie. It's Margie. And it's Catherine, KatherynCraddolphGothard.
And can you please tell me your date and place of birth?
September the 3rd, 1934, County, Ohio.
Where at in Lawrence County?
At Blackfork.
Don't forget to answer in a complete sentence. So,
Okay.
okay. Were you born at home or in a
I would home. Yeah.
do you know
who
was in attendance?
Not really. I don't remember.
What is your family racial background?
Oh. Well, we're down as mulattoes, so that includes white, Indian, and African American.
And if you were asked to identify yourself, identify yourself.
I'd say American, I guess. I don't know.
Can you please tell me the name of your parents, where they were born, and when they were born?
Well, my dad was David Oscar Cradoff, and he's, I guess they were Blackfork. I'm not sure where it really started. And he was 76 when he passed away in 1982. And my mom had Ruth Howell, Howell. And she was born in Gallia County, which is down close to Gallipolis. She was 37 when she passed away. And her birthday is in November 4th, 1912.
Tell me a little bit more about your father. What did he do for a living? How did your parents meet, if you know that information?
Well, I don't really know that because, in those days, people didn't talk a lot. We're finding out more now than we did when my parents were living. But he worked at a brick plant, and it was just right over the hill where we live. We could just take him lunch down over the hill. It was a brick plant where they made clay brick. And we'd go down there and take him lunch, and that's where he worked. And they called it a pug mill. When the brick came out, and then they cut it, then they would take it to the kilns and, warm them up, burn them, or whatever they did. But that's where he worked all these years.
What was the name of the brick plant?
I'm not sure. I think Davis brick plant. And there's a lot of places in Chillicothe and around where the bricks are today. They were those glazed brick. And they were really nice. I have a few at home. We had to bring some home. So it was really nice in those days. And, we all lived in houses that looked alike, company houses. Everybody's house looked alike. So if you worked at the plant, you got to live there for, very little bit of rent. So that's how we came up.
What area of Blackfork was this that the house?
Now, I lived on 4 Hill, a 4 Hill, a 9er Hill, a Pike. These are the people that lived down along the highway. And there was a road that went up past the store. I can't remember what they called it. It depended on where you lived. Of course, we was all there together, but but I lived on Fort Hill. We grew up on Fort Hill.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you remember about your mother?
Well, really not a lot because she was so young, but and there was 5 of us, three boys and 2 girls, and she had breast cancer. And those days, doctors or whatever, like they have today. Really nice, very pretty, I thought. So other than that, she had 8 brothers. They was all around there, It was just one community of families down there.
How old were you when your mother passed away?
I think I was 15. The youngest was Gary. He was 8. And of course, my sister, she stayed there until I went to school. I would come home, she would do the cooking, I would wash the dishes. And then after I graduated, she left, got married and left, and then I taken over for a while, and then took care of the house, and so it was nice. And then Dad, he raised the boys. They got married and left.
Can you please tell me the name of your father's parents and when they were born and when they were born, if you know that?
Dad's father was Alvy Cradoff, and his mother was Molly Harris Cradoff. And I think, as far as I know, a lot of the people came through Gallipolis, Gallia, up through, came around that way. And of course, they moved a lot because wherever the work was, the people followed it, But as long as I can remember, they were right there in Blackfork. Now, Dad lived in Chillicothe for a while with his family. But as far as Mom, she went to Gallia School. Can't think of the too. But anyway.
The Pine Hill?
Pine Hill, one of those schools over there. Yeah. So, other than that, I'm finding out more on Ancestry.com than I got out of my parents,
How about your mother's parents? What were their names?
Let's see. Mom's mother was Mamie. Let's see. She was Long, Mamie Long Howe, and Grandpa was Arthur Howe. I don't know what his middle name was. And Mamie still has, the Longs. That was her family. But she was relation to Everdeen and all those families. But and she had passed away before I was born, so I didn't know my grandma, but I knew my grandfather. Yeah.
And living in the Blackfork area?
They were all in that area too. Yeah. When I knew them. Other than that, I'm not sure where they came from. I can give you later on. I can give you the history of the Longs, where they came from.
It's bad.
We're gonna wait till that train passes.
Grandma's gonna be on TV. No. No, it's interviewing. Grandma be done in a minute, okay? Mm-hmm.
Okay, ready? Can you please tell me the name of your brothers and sisters and when they were born?
Oh, okay. My sister Anna, and in 1992, we had a flash flood, just about like they had here. And she was on her way to my house. She called me up and I said, I'll be down. I would go down and help her. And she just never showed up. And that was it. We found her 2 days later. That was my sister. She was 61. And then I have a brother named John, lives in Fort Worth, Texas. And then I have David, and Gary is here today. John is 75. I am 73. Dave is 67. And Gary is, I think, 65.
And where would Anne have been was she the oldest?
She was the oldest, yeah.
Where was the flash flood at?
In Masseyville, Chillicothe. Yeah, she was just, leaving the house, and she was in her truck, and nobody knows. Nobody saw her get out or whatever, so we think it called, and she thought, I'll just get out and go back home, but it didn't work, It's taken her on, and she was gone for 2 days, and when we found her, but you're just happy to find them, but she was the oldest.
And what year was this flood?
92.
Can you please tell me the name of your husband and where he was born?
Well, my husband's name's Joe. His name is Joseph Brantley Gothard, and he was born in Parkersburg, West Virginia. He is 78. He's here today. Yeah.
And how did you meet your husband?
Well, he came to, like Shuggy said, they came to Blackfork, He came down to see another girl, to a friend, and we met. That was it, and we have been married 52 years. Yeah.
How long did you guys date before getting married?
I would say a year, probably about a year, yeah.
And where and when were you guys married?
Well, we was married in 54 in Greenup, Kentucky. That was a quick, you can go to Greenup, and in those days, you didn't have to go through a lot. You just get your license and over in Greenup, Kentucky, and get married. Yeah, wasn't a big thing, but it's lasted a long time.
Can you please tell me the names of your
Yes, I had a son, Joseph, and he's 53, and then Tina, she'll turn 50 this year, just 2. Yeah.
And were they born at home or in a hospital, and where were they born?
They were born in Chillicothe Hospital. Yeah.
So how did you get from the Blackfork area? What brought you from the Blackfork area to Chillicothe?
Well, Joe is a barber. So I stayed home for about 3 or 4 months, and he would cut hair and come back to Blackfork because the boys were there. I was still helping Dad take care of the boys. And after that, well, then I just moved to Chillicothe, But we still have a business. We have a shop at home. Yeah, in the yard, outside there. So. He's still cutting hair after all this time.
Can you name some of the ways in which you were employed after, or where'd you go to school first off?
Well, I went to Blackfork School, graduated in 52, and graduated second in my class. And after that, after we moved up here, I started working in schools. I graduated, I retired 30 years in the school cafeteria there in Chillicothe.
Where'd you go to elementary school?
There in Blackfork. I went 12 years right there.
And can you describe going to school? Was it integrated or segregated?
Well, we didn't, I don't think we went through that down there. I didn't, because I was in everything, and when I graduated, there was 2 blacks head of the class, and it didn't seem like a problem. I never went through it at all, and it was 12 years in the one school. We just had the one school, and that was it. And I was in all the high school plays, so if there was anything going on, I don't know whether I ignored it or I just didn't know, but we didn't have any problems, I didn't think. No segregation at all. And then when I come to Chillicothe, they would say, my dad came up to work, came to Chillicothe to work for a while, and they would say, well, you know, you can't go in those restaurants. And it was just hard to believe it was still going on. But we didn't seem to have any problems at all, you know.
Were there some other instances of discrimination that you remember experiencing in Blackfork?
The only thing is when the 12th grade, they'd taken the class to Washington, and the teacher came in and told us, now there's one place you will have to split with your class. And we was like, I don't know about that. She said, when you go to Ashland, Kentucky, you have to, I think it was Ashland, she said, you can't go in the same room with your class and sit down. Well, we didn't sit down at all. We went and looked and see who was in there, and then we just kept going. You know, we just didn't go through that. We didn't understand what was going on because we just didn't have to go through it, you know. But it was out there, I guess, you know. If you're with your kids, if you were with your friends, you just sort of ignored it in those days, you know. So, but that was the only thing I can remember that anybody ever said anything to us, you know.
How about in like movie theaters?
Well, see, we had a movie theater for a while, and then it closed down, and I didn't, you know, never went. But I don't think so. I don't think so. You know, I don't think it was there. We didn't have a whole lot going on. I'll have to get you some pictures of our theater and our school and all that. And
How about roller skating?
no, there was no roller skating. You know,
So, what did you guys do for fun growing up?
I think if you just went to someone's house, maybe you'd have a little dance or something like that. But other than that, there's not a lot of entertaining, you know. I always tell them we climbed a lot of trees, and you know, if you would see Blackfork, there is just nothing but trees. It's just like roads go up through trees, and you just went out and picked berries, picked apples, you know, things like that. We didn't go through of course, that's been a long time ago, you know, but we didn't have any entertainment at all, you know.
What kind of work did you said after high school, what kind of work were you involved in?
I was manager of the school cafeteria. Did a lot of cooking, still do a lot of cooking. A lot of cookbooks and stuff, you know. So, yeah, I went to, started out in a little school in Masseyville, and then I went in town, and then I stayed there until, for 30 years, I retired from the school system. Yeah, it was pretty good.
What schools did you work at?
I worked at Massey School, and I ended up at Worthington, the largest elementary in Chillicothe. You know, it was real nice. Still have friends there, you know. Yeah.
Do you know when your family settled in the Blackfork area, approximately when they came to the Blackfork Folk Patch area?
No, not really. I'm not sure when they came, because when Mom came up from the Gothard area, I'm not sure what year that was. But I can get the dates for you. But you know, I can't tell you when it all started. I know we lived in 3 different houses in the area. You know, you just moved around, but it was just a little community, and if a house came empty, you liked the looks of that one better, people just moved, you know, and it was, but other than that, you know, there wasn't a whole lot going on.
You described some of it being full of trees. Can you describe some of the businesses that were there when you were growing up? Businesses or other places of industry that were there when you were growing up?
Well, the only two industries, the brick plants. We had 2 different ones. One was called the silica plant. The other was the clay plant. We had a movie house for a while, and then the store that you went to, it had the shoes, clothes, and food all in one store. And after a while, they had a little restaurant off to the side. That was it. And your school, where she was always, plays and things at school. So
What was the store?
I think it was just Cameron Clay, Cambria, Canberra Clay, and the company owned it all. They owned the houses and the stores and the movie house. So that was it. And the way they got paid, you could go to the store and you could buy your food and you could charge it. And then when Dad got paid, he would pay for it. Or you could go to an office there in the store and they would give you script. And I don't know whether people ever remember, but it was metal money. If you go over there and you sign up for the script, and if it was $2, she'd give you they would just round metal money, and you go over there and pay for your food. And that was just the way it is. Of course, you never got ahead. You was just surviving,
So would you buy most of your clothes there, or would you make most of your clothes?
I didn't sew in those days, but I can make you a wedding gown now. I made my wedding gown, and she got married in Columbus. It was really nice. But you bought everything right there because you could charge it. You could just charge it and pay for it, at the end of the month. So it was convenient, but not very good.
What kinds of food did you eat growing up, and how were those foods produced?
Well, everybody had gardens, and as far as meats, it was just it was chicken every Sunday, and then you could have pork chops and chopped steak, and they did have another store there that we could get groceries from, but it wasn't like you could, this store here, and we had vegetables, and we did have a garden, a lot of green beans stuff, and butchered our own hogs. That was fun. A big day. Everybody would come and help, and they would butcher these hogs and make the sausage, and it was just really nice. And of course, there was no refrigeration. I can remember when I didn't even have electric. We didn't have electric. When we got electric in 1950, my mom was sick, and it was a big thing because she could have fresh milk, and but they would butcher the hogs, and we had smokehouses, which you would never believe that now. And a lot of salt. You would salt your food down, which was not really good for you today, but that's the way we grew up. But it was kind of bad, but I wouldn't trade of it.
You mentioned you got electricity in 1950. How about plumbing and those kinds of things, and running water?
There was no plumbing or water when I left home. And that was 54. There was no plumbing then. We had well water. You walk across the street and take your bucket and go get your water, and so you know what that's like. In the winter you had ice, You had a lot of Jell-O in the winter because you could set your bowls outside on the porch. You'd have Jell-O. Other than that, you had an Iceman that come through, So sounds like a long time ago, doesn't it?
How often did the ice come?
I think it came through at least once a week, but ice didn't last long. So yeah.
Do you know anything about the settling of the Blackfork area? What families settled there?
No, I don't know who the first ones. I don't know who had been the first. Now, these books I have, they tell the story, and it starts off with the Longs and the Scotts, the Cradoffs, and the Harrises, and the Howes. They were, as I know, they were the first ones in, but I don't know how it started.
About the Stewarts, how they came in?
The who?
The Stewarts?
No. See, I didn't know how we were in the Stewarts. That goes back pretty far. I don't know too much about them. I don't know the story on that.
Why did your family leave Blackfork area?
Well, my dad passed away there in 1982, so my family was still there. See the Howells, I had 8 brothers. Of course, they just moved away for jobs. It was jobs. I would say anybody that left, it was because there was no work left there at all. You know, there's nothing there now. The schools are gone, and there's a few families still there. And have you been to our church?
I haven't been to a service, but
Yeah,
I've
you
been outside.
and the church is still nice, and cemeteries are important to people down there. You know, we went down. My grandfather died when I was a little girl. He did not have a stone. Last year I went down seeing that he's got a stone, and nobody but Blackfork people would go in the cemetery and have a picnic and set a stone, but we did it.
On what day did you do this?
I'd say in the fall. My brothers and I went down. We took food with us. We fixed or set up Grandpa a stone. We sit there till it was all done, and important. They're very important. A lot of people don't even go back to the cemeteries, but we go back. You know, we go back all the time. You know, it's well taken care of. You know.
Why do you think it's important to go back to the cemetery?
Oh, I go back. It's just like they are there. You go back and you go back and talk to them. They're still important to us. You know. So we went back, put the stone in, set up our little sit down and talked and had our snacks and set it up. So now, and I had a cousin that called up and he says, I saw what you did. Do I owe you anything? I said, go down and enjoy it, you know. So they need to be recognized, you know. They set up Blackfork for us. So that's nice.
What grandfather was this that you put the tombstone?
This is Howe, Arthur and Mamie Howe. Yeah.
Can you tell me about the Pine Hill School at all? Was it still going on when you went to school? Or
No, I never did know. I don't really know where it was. I think it was over in Gaya County. I think it was over around Poke Patch. I think that's where it is. Yeah.
Now, how far in your estimation is Poke Patch from Black Fork? Did you have any connection with Poke Patch growing up?
Oh yeah. When you go to the church, you go down, I would say, a mile, and you run right into Poke Patch. Now Carolyn that's here, the Coker, she's a Coker right here. Her grandmother and all of them lived there. They're that really took care of Poke Patch, you know. The Cokers, they were over there. But it's just all one thing. But that's where the church started in Poke Patch, and then the Log Cabin Church, you know. So it all started there, and it's nothing but a hillside, really. Not a whole lot to it. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the Union Baptist Church. How you remember it? How often you went to Sunday school? What were some of the activities associated with attending the church?
Oh yeah. Well, we walked. We would go to Sunday school in the morning. You cut through the woods. You go to Sunday school, and then you'd come back home and eat dinner, and you'd go back in the afternoon, and then you'd go a different way. You know, you go down what we down through the go down on the pond, and as you walk, you just gather a lot of kids. By the time you get to church, you got 35 or 40 kids, and you're just talking and messing around, going, and it's a long ways. I can't believe it. I can't believe I walked that. I think that's why I can still get around pretty good at my age, because we walked everywhere. We didn't even own a car, and you would walk to church. I would say 3 or 4 miles. We'd walk to church, and when we got baptized in the creek, you know, that was fun. Think about it today. There was just a creek that ran through a man's field, you know, we got baptized there. After that, we walked home in wet clothes, you know. With that thing back, I think we were poor. I'm not sure, but I think we were. It doesn't matter today. It was, good memories.
How come you think you were poor?
Well, when I think about today, what we had, but then the neighbors didn't have anything either, so you didn't worry about it. Everybody was the same, you know. When if you would see the houses, and the floors were, of course, there were just wooden houses, and the floors were just linoleum. You had coal stoves. You know, you brought coal in from outside. You had coal stoves, and but then everybody, it was the whole community was the same way. Now later on, it got better. You know, it got better later on, but when we were small, I'd say poor. You know, you had to go get your water, carry your water for your bath and all that kind of stuff. But it didn't matter. It was nice.
How was growing up in Blackfork during World War II? What do you remember about that?
What year was that? 45. Well, no, we came to Chillicothe for a little while because Dad helped build he worked construction at the VA hospital, at the VA, if you know where that is. So we was in Chillicothe for a while. And one thing I remember, which I did not like, and I don't like to talk about it, but I was in the fifth grade, and it was an all-black school. And I could not believe it. I mean, I could not believe that these kids had to walk past other schools and go to this school. It was just because we didn't go through that. And, but we did went to school there for a while. We was there about 3 or 4 years, but, and things was a little bit better, but I was glad to go back to the country, you know, because of something like that. It was kind of hard to take, you know, when you're not used to it.
What was the name of the school?
It was Southern. Yeah, I think it was Southern School, and it was down on Walnut and 6th Street down in there. Yeah, and I think they were living better, but mentally, you know, I didn't care for it. And it was just completely different, you know, from being living in the country. But that was the first time I ever knew that you realized all this was going on, you know. And I see these kids today, and I always think, well, I think we're the same age, but we're not. I was not the same age as those kids. They held them back, you know. That was pretty bad, you know, when I think about what they went through. They lived in the city, but it was completely different for me. You know.
What is the fondest memory of Blackfork?
Oh, I don't know, friends and just you know, it was just the closeness of everybody. Just like here today, all these people started out from Blackfork and they're still together. All you have to do is call one up, you know, and they're there for you. And we will meet, go back to the church in October, and everybody will show up with their little covered dishes, you know. And Emancipation, same thing, Galpalist, you know, everybody gets together. Yeah, so, and everybody's relation, you know, everybody's whatever, you know. And so it was nice. It was nice.
What are some of the things you remember about Emancipation Day? Can you describe some of your memories about Emancipation?
Oh, well, we went to Emancipation not knowing what it was for. You know what it's for, Emancipation. But we just went to see boys and, you know, go eat, and you get a new outfit and those kind of things, you know. We didn't go, I know people was having these speeches and things about emancipation. It's like, you know, we didn't even listen. But it was fun just going to see your friends and hanging out and to say, you know, your food and friends and all that. Everybody went and spent the whole day, and but it was fun. You know, still go down there and see them.
Growing up, how how did you learn about slavery?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, you know, one thing I know today, everything I learned in history books is turning out not to be true. You know, they need to get rid of all the history books that I came up under. You know, a lot of those things aren't true. But other than slavery, when you think back, our people went through a lot. I can't imagine, you know, surviving something like that. It's just terrible to think about. I don't know anybody that went through it. You know, I didn't have any relatives that really went through the main thing. But when you think about it, I don't know how you could, you know, mentally, I don't know how you could survive under something like that. But as far as history books, it turned out our history books was just not telling us the truth. You know, of course, they've been updated a lot, but a lot of things. But I didn't really find out anything about it. Just what's in the history books and things like that. But I didn't really know anyone that went through that. And that's my daughter going there.
Did your parents and people in the community of Blackfork ever talk about slavery? Was that a subject that you heard
Yeah,
about?
they didn't talk about it. They did not talk about it. And it was like, of course, we were in on the Indian side now. They didn't talk about that either. And now, if you go to Blackfork, we now have, you know, the government gave us some land there in Blackfork. The Saponi Indians, we now have so many acres. You can go down there and go camping. And but they didn't talk about, parents didn't talk about those kind of things in those days, you know. In those days, you couldn't be a relative of an Indian because an Indian was a savage and nobody wanted anything to do with it. But still, in our books, there are Indian ladies in there, you know, but nobody ever wanted to talk about it, you know. It was
Do you know what Native American tribe you're connected to? What is the Native American tribe you're connected to?
But now, other than the Saponis, which goes back a long ways, and they sort of broke up into other tribes. And there is a lady in the book that I can trace back. Her father was a Cherokee Indian. But other than that, you know, and if you would see some of our relatives, you could tell. You know, you could just tell. They just sort of shows, you know, they have that look. But other than that, now that would be on my mom's side. I don't know about my dad's side, you know.
You mentioned that your family is from a multiracial background. There's white, black, Native American. In the family, there's some people that can probably pass as white. Did a lot of people that you know, or do you know stories, or can you tell stories about people passing?
Let's see. Not really. I can't think of any, you know. And of course, I have uncles. And you're talking about, I had 8 uncles, and no 2 was the same color. I mean, it was just so odd how anybody could have 8 boys, and everybody looks different. You know there's a mixture somewhere in the family. They just all look completely different, you know, and my mom too. And of course, we have to go through the hair thing, you know, we got to do the hair thing. And on my mom's side, the guys all had, you know, nice wavy hair, which we call. But you just sort of notice that makes a difference in when you have different ethnic groups. That's how it comes out. You know, that's just how we got here. That's why we look like we do. You know, so when you go back to the history, you will see when you know, how it came out that way. But we know we never had anybody that went off and, you know, passed for anything. You know, they just. But there's quite a mixture down there, you know. And of course, here today, there's quite a mixture, you know. We've changed a lot, but I think it's good. You know, I think it's nice.
do you know about the Underground Railroad in the Blackfork area?
Well, of course, they never talked about that either. They're not going to tell you about, our people would never talk about things like that. But there is a place there. There's actually a few tunnels down there where they actually were, where they hid out and things. And Bev Gray can tell you that. She is good. She went down with us one time, and actually she showed me some things that I didn't even know, and I grew up down there. But she's real good at that, But there is a tunnel over the church, back one of those roads where they really went through back there.
What are some of the names that operated or participated in the Underground Railroad from the Blackfork Towpath?
Oh, gee. They're in the book. The ones that used to hide out, they would say, how they would take in, and I can't think of their names now. Where some of them, they would come to their houses and stay, and how they would have either lights in their window or they would hang different blankets or something on the fence, and it would tell whether or not it was safe to come across. Have you ever been down to Ravine or where they Ripley, where they cross there? Now that's a really good story. It's in that one book we have. But I have big pieces of Blackfork, and that's the best book out yet. It just tells you everything about the people in Blackfork.
I just have two more questions for you. Okay, we're gonna wait for that.
Drink soda and vinegar. You would mix it and it would foam, and you would drink it, and it was good for you, I guess.
Well, that's my next question about remedies. So you can.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Okay.
He had in his time, and he was the math teacher, and he would be sitting there, and all at once he'd mix up this whatever and drink. Knew that he had an upset stomach, and come find out, they say, well, he was drunk.
But did you know Cyrus Donnelly?
No, but I know. Let's see. Went with daughter. I was down from. I remember that name, but I don't really know who he was.
People of color?
No. The Farbrick, which is the next little go over. They didn't live right there in Blackfork, the Donnellys. They came in as a school teacher. But.
Okay. My next question is, what kinds of illnesses did family members experience growing up, and how were these things treated, and how often, when would you see a doctor for what type of thing?
First time I went to the doctor, I was 18 years old, and I was pregnant. That was it. Teeth, as far as dentist, you did not go to the dentist until they was ready to, so bad you just pulled. You had it pulled. There was no doctor. There was one there, but there was one in Oak Hill, which is the next little town up. You just didn't go to the doctor all the time. Now we got all of our shots at school. The kids would come, Lawrence County. We was in Lawrence County. They would come and give you your measles, and we did have all of those. And if you wanted to play basketball, they'd listen to your heart. That was about it. But you never had a physical. And as far as mom, I think she was the first cancer in our area, and by the time she went to the doctor, it was just too far. And she was about 36 when she started, and she lasted about a year. She went to the hospital in Gallipolis. That was the closest one, Hosier Hospital, and it was down along the river. The river. They have a new one now, but that's not the one then. And most of the people just had, I really don't know what they doctored for. My dad was 78 when he passed away. In '82, I went up to the hospital and I said, well, I would like to know what happened. Someone said he had been to the doctor. There was no pills in the house. And she said, your dad has never been here. He never went to the doctor. And they just didn't believe in doctors. He didn't believe in going to the doctor. So other than that, I think they just had, if you had high blood pressure, you know, you didn't know it, but I'm sure they did. Other than that, I don't, if they passed away, you know, they'd say they had a heart attack, but once your heart stops, that's it, you know. Other than that, I don't know what they had.
What were some of the home remedies that were used to treat, like, some of the small illnesses, if you remember any of those?
Well, other than aspirins, and you drank a lot of sassafras tea, and that was right outside the door. You know, you could just go get it and boil it. I don't know. I don't know what they, you know, I don't know. We had liniment, you know, that was for your aches. You know, I never took any medicine when I was at home, so, you know, I don't really know.
Castor oil?
Oh, yeah, turpentine, castor oil, that kind of stuff. I don't know whether they castor oil anymore. Yeah, well, you know, you didn't have to be sick. Your parents made you take that, so you did not get sick. Every so often, they would just give it to you, and you was okay, you know. And I don't remember ever having a cold. Because they just gave you that stuff ahead of time, you know. Other than that, I don't remember getting sick. You know, I'm sure we did, but not like you do today, you know. And now you go every 3 months. I do. At 73.
Is there anything I haven't asked you that you'd like to add to the interview?
Well, I don't think so. You know, I think that covers it all. Other than
when you were talking about the school system in Chillicothe, when you went to school in Chillicothe, what was the difference between the school in Chillicothe and the school in Blackfork that you found?
well, it was not segregated for one thing, and other than that, well, it was all black teachers. We had a black principal, but I think they kind of held the kids back. I don't think they. There was some older kids there. When I think about how old those kids were that was in the 5th and 6th grade with me, they had to be there a long time. They were like 2 or 3 years behind, which they should have. You know, they should have been able to move on. You know. Now, as far as the other schools, I think they were all right. And today, Chillicothe schools are really good, but I just think they was really segregated then.
Was that in Chillicothe?
Yeah, it was on down in the South End, and really now, Chillicothe don't really have what you would call a black neighborhood. It's just really, if you got the money, you can live anywhere in Chillicothe. When we got married, they wanted to tell us where you could live, and they wanted to sell you houses that was just, you know, you wouldn't want to live there. But now, Chillicothe is really, really nice.
Where was the black neighborhood when you bought your house?
Mechanic, 7th, 6th. That was most where, that's where the school was. And
Another question, who was your teacher in Blackfork?
I had Mrs. Davis, Mrs. Sutton, Mrs. Henshaw, and I still have a teacher today. When I went back to the Blackfork reunion, she's still living, and I would not think of her name. She's still there.
What ethnic background were they?
Pardon?
What ethnic background were they?
They were all white. They were all white teachers. Yeah, yeah.
And what size was the class in Blackfork?
I would say in the 20s. I'd say there's 20-some kids in a class. Yeah, and they did pretty well. But the only thing is, the guys, you know, because they would help out with their families. Very few black guys got to graduate. In those days, when you got to be like 16 or whatever, you didn't have to go to school. And maybe before that, you did not have to go to school. You could quit and help out with your families and things like that. There was very few black guys that graduated, but the ones that did well. You know, they went on. Well, I would say most of them went in the service. I would say most of them went in the service. I had a brother went in the Air. Two brothers went in the Air Force, retired from the Air Force, did real well. But it was really hard for the guys down there. You know, of course, the girls in those days expect you to get married. You know, so that's how we met. Yeah.
Is there anybody else that you think we should interview about life in Blackfork?
Well, now Carolyn over there, I don't know what she could tell you, but she was the Cokers from Poke Patch. Well, we have another guy that his last name is Keels. His family was some of the first families in Poke Patch. They lived there for a long time, and his last name is he's a Keels. His last name is Keels, and he's married to Karen Kofer. And but his family lived over there for a long time. Yeah, I don't think his sisters are here, but I did see him. Yeah, he can tell you a lot. I would say Gene. I think his name's Gene. Gene Keels. He can tell you a lot. Yeah, about Poke Patch. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome.